Before we start, quick note. This video examines the methods and public influence tactics of George Lincoln Rockwell and Charlie Kirk. It's about how they operated, not about defending or condemning either man. Some parts may challenge your views, but the goal is to understand how rhetoric, attention-seeking, and even money can shape real-world consequences. What does it take to silence a voice on a college campus? What does it take to turn a political disagreement into a death sentence? On September 10, 2025, Charlie Kirk, a prominent conservative activist and founder of Turning Point USA, was assassinated during a speaking event at Utah Valley University. He was shot by a sniper positioned on a nearby rooftop, marking a tragic escalation in the long-standing tension between free speech and political violence on American campuses. Kirk had spent years traveling to college campuses, giving speeches, sparking debate, and provoking outrage with his style and rhetoric. But Kirk was not the first to die allegedly because of the words coming out of his mouth. Decades earlier in history existed a man named George Lincoln Rockwell. He used the same playbook as Kirk: provocative speeches, campus appearances, and media theatrics. Some would say their agendas were not the same, but the response from the media and public was very similar. George Lincoln Rockwell was a flamboyant, pipe-smoking showman. He was homophobic, anti-Semitic, and openly racist, turning hate into spectacle. Born the son of a vaudeville star, he attended Brown University, drew comics for the campus newspaper, and later served in the Navy during World War II and Korea. In 1958, he founded the American Nazi Party, later renamed the National Socialist White People's Party, with the goal of promoting National Socialism in the United States. Rockwell mastered the art of media manipulation. He held rallies, appeared on college campuses, and staged stunts designed to provoke outrage. Despite his small numbers, Rockwell's performances were impossible for the media to ignore. In 1960, he publicly supported Richard Nixon's presidential candidacy, prompting Nixon to denounce him, a move that showcased Rockwell's flair for provocation. The following year, in 1961, he and his followers drove a Volkswagen labeled the Hate Bus through the South, parodying the freedom riders and civil rights activists, turning virulent racism into a spectacle that commanded attention. And in June of that year, Rockwell pulled a headline-grabbing stunt by showing up at a Nation of Islam rally in Washington, D.C., with his followers in full Nazi uniforms. He even donated $20 to Elijah Muhammad's organization and publicly praised the Nation of Islam for promoting racial separation, which twistedly overlapped with his own white supremacist beliefs. But he was mostly there to stir controversy and grab media attention. Then in 1962, Rockwell attempted to hold a rally celebrating Hitler's birthday in New York, a provocative stunt designed to attract media attention and outrage the public. The event was largely unsuccessful. Authorities intervened, counter-protesters disrupted the rally, and it failed to draw a significant crowd, highlighting the limits of his appeal. Throughout this period, Rockwell used swastikas, dramatic poses, and even a corncob pipe to create an unmistakable and provocative image that the press could not ignore. Later, on August 28, 1963, he arrived in Washington, D.C. This was the same day Martin Luther King Jr. delivered his "I Have a Dream" speech. Rockwell predicted that 10,000 angry counter-demonstrators would confront him and warned of black mobs attacking Congress, assuming the police would support him. In reality, the police denied him a permit. Instead, he was surrounded by roughly 100 officers, and his small band of fewer than 90 followers was vastly outnumbered by the peaceful crowd of more than 200,000 attending the march. In fact, some of his followers were actually working undercover for law enforcement or Jewish community groups that were monitoring him. But his notoriety made him a target. A few years later, on August 25, 1967, Rockwell left his Arlington, Virginia headquarters around 11:30 a.m. He parked his car in front of the Econowash laundromat on Wilson Boulevard, walked inside, and returned shortly after.
He put his clothes in each tub, those two tubs. And then he put his detergent in and he started the machine. He said, "I forgot something." And he went out.
As he started to back out, 2 shots were fired from the roof of the shopping center. The first missed, hitting the front seat. The second struck Rockwell in the chest, rupturing his aorta, knocking his corncob pipe from his mouth. He crawled into the passenger side, opened the door, and stepped out toward the shooter's location. But his knees buckled and he collapsed.
Did you hear the shots? Yes, sir, I heard the shots and footsteps when he ran back across the building. I immediately looked up and saw Mr. Rockwell fall out of his car.
The assassin took off and Rockwell was pronounced dead at 12:02 p.m. The shooter was John Patler, a former member of Rockwell's party. Patler, born Yannicki Patsalos, had joined the ANP in 1960 and later changed his name to Patler to align more closely with Adolf Hitler's ideology. He quickly rose through the ranks, becoming a captain and serving as an editor and cartoonist for the party's magazine. The motive for Patler allegedly came when he was kicked out of the ANP due to a number of issues. They mainly thought his actions were believed to be causing division within the ranks of the party. But all of the factors led Rockwell to issue a discharge letter against Patler. Then a few months later, Patler would go and shoot Rockwell. After killing Rockwell, Patler was then arrested a half an hour later, less than 2 miles from the scene. He had used a 7.63 millimeter broom-handled Mauser pistol in the assault. Later in 1970, after trial, Patler was convicted and sentenced to 20 years in prison. He was then paroled in 1975, but spent 6 more years incarcerated after violating parole by being charged with trespassing and possession of marijuana. He was reportedly released from prison in 1985 after serving 18 years. The crazy thing is that reports say that he is still alive in 2025 at the age of 87. Now, when it comes to Rockwell, even in death, it did not erase his influence. His tactics, provocative speeches, media manipulation, and campus appearances became a blueprint for future far-right leaders. In 2017, during the Charlottesville Unite the Right rally, groups cited him as an influence, and neo-Nazi leaders like Matthew Heimbach credited Rockwell's speeches and writings for shaping their ideology. Unfortunately, Charlie Kirk's campus appearances and provocative style share this lineage. Both men courted controversy, provoked outrage, and attracted intense attention, making them targets. While the ideology and context may somewhat differ, the playbook is strikingly similar. Visibility, spectacle, and the strategic provocation of opponents. Rockwell's life, theatrics, and ultimate assassination, alongside the tragedy of Charlie Kirk decades later, serve as a reminder of the risks inherent in using provocative rhetoric and media manipulation. Their stories force us to examine the consequences of spectacle-driven politics and the fine line between free expression and incitement to violence. History shows us that charisma, ideology, and showmanship can leave a legacy long after the man is gone. But sometimes it can make him a target along the way, leading to demise. Understanding Rockwell's methods and his fate provides context for modern controversies and a cautionary tale about the dangers of the public stage. Let's be clear here. No one deserves to be assassinated for words alone, but there is grave danger of who you may be riling up against you while you spew your opinion under the First Amendment. Here's an example. If you share the same space in a room and verbally attack the other people, they may see it as a harmful threat. And what comes next could be seen as you partly being responsible in the average person's eyes. This country belongs to all that legally live here, and no citizen should be afraid of anyone verbally assaulting them about anything. Just a thought.